We looked at the 4 points of last week. Number 1, God works through natural events. Number 2, when the king asked him a question, Nehemiah prayed and responded. Number 3, because he was right with God, he had divine favor. And number 4, he was given a purpose bigger than himself. Nehemiah could have remained with comforts in the king's service. But when he took the discomfort of living for God's purpose, he found a meaning to his life. So my brothers and sisters, we need to have a meaning to our life. And when you have meaning, suffering has no meaning. Sacrifice has no meaning. Rejection has no meaning. Pain has no meaning. Because something bigger is working in your life. Tonight I'd like to share the light of faith and meaning. I'm going to read to you from the Magnificat, from Saint Elizabeth of the Trinity. She was a French Carmelite nun. She died of a disease at the age of 26. While she was dying, she wrote this reflection about meaning to life. In Colossians 1:24, St. Paul says, "In my own flesh, I fill up what is lacking in the passion of Christ for the sake of his body, which is the church." Now she has picked this up and she writes, "The apostle finds his happiness in this. The thought pursues me, and I confess that I experience a profound inner joy in thinking that God has chosen to associate me in the passion of his Christ." Here she says, I am really happy because God has chosen me to participate in his suffering. Then she says, the way of Calvary I climb every day seems to me more like the path of beatitude. Have you ever seen those pictures depicting death reaping with his sickle? Well, that is my condition. I seem to feel myself being destroyed like that. Sometimes it is painful for nature. And I can assure you that if I were to remain at that level, I would feel only my cowardice in the face of suffering. Remember, in a spiritual man or a woman, there are two people living inside. One is the natural one, the other is the spiritual one. And then she says, but that is looking at things from the human point of view. Very quickly, I open the eye of my soul in the light of faith. And this faith tells me that it is love who is destroying me, who is slowly consuming me. Then I feel a tremendous joy and I surrender myself to him as his prey. Through the light of faith, he is saying, the sooner I am destroyed from inside, the sooner I will be caught up in my lover. So let's see in Nehemiah tonight how the light of faith changes everything around. Nehemiah chapter 2 verse 10. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite official heard about this, they were very much disturbed that someone had come to promote the welfare of the Israelites. The first principle I like to show you is, just because you want to do a good thing, don't expect everyone to support it. In fact, these people became disturbed. Why is that? They were losing their advantage. So when you try to obey God, you will always disturb people. So when you disturb people, they will disturb you back in return. So what's principle number 1? Obeying God will create disturbances. Verse 17. Then I said to them, you see the trouble we are in? Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. Now they were defeated, but he comes along and says, let's unite for a purpose bigger than ourselves. Number 2, God invites us to a goal bigger than ourselves, not mere survival. And number 3, Nehemiah shines the light of faith on that situation. How did he do that? Verse 18. I told them about the gracious hand of my God upon me and what the king had said to me. Nehemiah lights a torch of faith and shows that situation through the eyes of God. Look at the next verse. But when Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite, and Geshem the Arab heard about it, they mocked and ridiculed us. What is this you are doing? Are you rebelling against the king? Now what did they use? ridicule. And when they tried the ridicule, Nehemiah had answered that. I answered them by saying, the God of heaven will give us success. He shone the light of faith on the situation and said, God is moving in this thing. That's our challenge. Through a prayer life, through a life of worship, through a life of surrender, through an intimacy with God, we are called to shine the light of faith on the events of life that other people don't see and understand.